When God marks a date, he's not speaking casually. He's declaring intention. Heaven doesn't circle days the way we circle birthdays or appointments. When God highlights November 28, 2025, he is signaling a moment carved out of eternity, a day in which something divine is scheduled to manifest on earth. It's not just another sunrise, not just another page on the calendar. This is a day with purpose attached to it. You see, God never interrupts the ordinary unless he's planning to release the extraordinary. And when he says a day will not be normal, you better believe that all of heaven is already moving, aligning, shifting, and preparing the atmosphere around your life. God is the author of time, the one who steps into our seconds and saturates them with his glory. So when he speaks about a specific day, it means he's already written something into your story that you haven't stepped into yet. Many of us go through life thinking days are all the same. Monday feels like Tuesday. Wednesday feels like Friday. And life becomes a cycle of repetition. But God is saying, I break cycles. I interrupt patterns. I overturn routines. I shake the ground so you can wake up to what I'm doing. He's calling you to pay attention, because a day marked by God is never accidental. It's intentional, strategic, prophetic. This is the kind of day where prayers you thought were forgotten rise back to the top. The kind of day where delays suddenly transform into divine acceleration. The kind of day where the quiet work God has been doing behind the scenes becomes visible, undeniable, unstoppable. God doesn't announce a date unless something is already in motion. And maybe you felt it. Maybe your spirit has been stirring, even if your mind can't explain it. Maybe you've sensed a shift in your sleep, a pull in your heart, a whisper in your thoughts that something is coming. That's because heaven always sends signals before it sends manifestation. God prepares your spirit before he reveals his plan. When God says November 28, 2025 will not be normal, he's inviting you to step out of autopilot and into awareness. He's saying, watch me, follow me, expect me. Because the moment you align your expectation with his word, you position yourself to receive what the ordinary could never deliver. This is not just a date. It's a divine announcement, a reminder that God still speaks, God still moves, and God still writes days that change destinies. What God is preparing for November 28, 2025 is not something you stumble into. It's something you align yourself with. God doesn't pour purpose into a heart that's facing the wrong direction. He doesn't release blessing into a life that refuses to make room for it. Alignment is heaven's requirement for earthly manifestation. When God sets a moment in motion, he looks for people willing to step into position. Alignment means you're not just hearing God, you're responding to him. It means your steps, your thoughts, your decisions, your posture begin to reflect the belief that God is up to something greater than what you see. Too many people want the promise without the preparation, the breakthrough without the obedience, the miracle without the movement. But every major shift in the Bible began with alignment. Noah aligned by building. Abraham aligned by walking. Moses aligned by obeying. Every breakthrough followed a posture of readiness. God is calling you into that same posture right now. Because whatever he plans to release on that day isn't random. It's relational. It requires you. It requires your faith, your surrender, your willingness to trust him, even when the details are hidden. God doesn't give you the full picture because he's not asking you to understand the plan. He's asking you to trust the planner. And trust isn't passive. Trust is active. Trust means you start praying differently. You start speaking differently. You start expecting differently. You begin to carry yourself like someone who knows heaven has an appointment with your name on it. You start walking with the quiet confidence that something has shifted. Even if your environment hasn't caught up yet. When God says that day won't be normal, he's inviting you into partnership. He's saying, walk with me. Sync your pace with mine. Move when I move. Because blessings flow through alignment. Power flows through alignment. Revelation flows through alignment. The right day means nothing if your heart is in the wrong place. This is the season where distractions must be silenced, where fear must be dismissed, where doubt must be evicted. Not because you're strong, but because your assignment is too important to be compromised. God is positioning you for something that requires clarity, sensitivity, and spiritual alertness. There are doors that will only open when your spirit agrees with God's timing. There are opportunities that only appear when your faith lines up with God's agenda. This is your invitation to recalibrate, to tune your spirit like an instrument until you resonate with heaven's frequency. Because what God has planned for that day, it won't come to the distracted, the casual, or the disengaged. It will come to the aligned. Breaking the spirit of normal is one of the most disruptive things God ever does in a person's life. Normal is comfortable. Normal is predictable. Normal is safe. But normal is also the enemy of destiny. God never calls his children to a life that can be explained by human logic or confined by routine patterns. When he steps in and declares that a day will not be normal, he is declaring war on everything that has tried to keep you contained, limited, and spiritually asleep. Some of you have been trapped in cycles. Cycles of average thinking, cycles of repeated struggles, cycles of going in circles instead of moving forward. You've been waking up to the same battles, praying the same prayers, fighting the same fears, facing the same delays. And after a while, you begin to call it normal. But God is saying, what you've been calling normal, I'm getting ready to call over. What you've accepted as your reality, I'm preparing to overturn. God uses disruption to bring direction. He shakes the familiar to reveal the supernatural. He breaks patterns not to frustrate you, but to free you. Because sometimes it's not the enemy holding you back. It's the comfort of ordinary living. It's the belief that life can't be more than what you've already seen. It's the fear that stepping out will cost you more than staying where you are. But nothing extraordinary ever grows in the soil of normal. Miracles don't happen where expectations are low. Breakthroughs don't enter rooms where people have settled. Destiny doesn't bloom where faith has gone silent. So God stirs you. He disturbs you. He pushes you out of your comfort zone and into a zone where only faith can sustain you. But understand this, breaking normal doesn't feel comfortable. It feels like discomfort. It feels like sudden change. It feels like unfamiliar territory. It feels like God is rearranging pieces of your life without asking for permission. And He is. Because what He's preparing you for can't be built on the old version of you. He has to stretch your faith, widen your vision, and elevate your expectation before He elevates your life. Some of the things you lost weren't attacks. They were divine removals. Some of the people who left weren't rejection. They were release. Some of the doors that closed weren't punishment. They were preparation. God wasn't trying to hurt you. He was breaking you out of normal. And when God breaks normal, He awakens purpose. He ignites hunger. He sharpens focus. He lifts your eyes from what you've been surviving to what you're about to become. That's why He's saying November 28, 2025 won't be a normal day, because He's silencing every voice that told you to settle, breaking every mindset that told you to shrink, and dismantling every barrier that told you this is all there is. God is getting you ready to walk into a reality where normal has no authority, and the extraordinary becomes your new expectation. Walking into the unseen is the very essence of faith. It's stepping into a space where your eyes have no evidence, but your spirit has every conviction. It's moving when nothing around you says go, believing when nothing around you says yes. Trusting when everything in your environment screams, oh, it's impossible. God does His greatest work. He brings shadows before. He brings anything into the spotlight. And the people who experience His power are the ones willing to walk even when the path isn't clear. Most of us want God to show us the whole picture before we take the first step. We say, Lord, reveal the plan, then I'll obey. But God says, obey, then I'll reveal the plan. Faith operates in reverse order from comfort. Faith walks first and understands later. Faith moves into what the natural eye cannot yet comprehend. When God speaks about a day that will not be normal, He's inviting you to leave the world of sight and enter the world of faith. Because what He's preparing cannot be received by the people who refuse to move until everything feels safe. The unseen is not empty. It is full, filled with every promise God has spoken over your life, every answer you've prayed for, every breakthrough that's been maturing in the quiet halls of heaven. But you cannot touch what you will not trust Him for. You cannot receive what you are unwilling to reach for. The unseen is where God hides miracles until your faith is strong enough to carry them. There are blessings with your name on them that fear has talked you out of. There are opportunities God has placed ahead of you that doubt has blinded you from. There are doors God has already unlocked, but you're standing still because you can't see the hallway yet. That's why God is training you to walk by faith, because the path to destiny is rarely visible until you are already on it. Walking into the unseen means stepping out of logic and stepping into obedience. Logic says, what if I fail? Faith says, what if God is already there waiting for me? Logic says, what if I'm not ready? Faith says, if God called me, I'm already prepared. Logic says, I don't see how. Faith says, I don't need to see, I need to trust. And sometimes God removes visibility on purpose, because if you could see the full picture, you try to control it. So he keeps certain things hidden, not to confuse you, but to protect you from moving prematurely. The unseen is not a punishment. It's a training ground for spiritual maturity. It's where God molds you, stretches you, deepens you, and prepares you to carry what normal days could never produce. Every major move of God in Scripture required someone to walk into the unseen. Peter stepped out onto water he had never walked on. Joshua stepped into a river that hadn't parted yet. David stepped onto a battlefield with no guarantee except God's presence. Each miracle was born from movement. Movement into uncertainty, movement into risk, movement into faith. So when God says November 28, 2025 won't be a normal day, He's calling you to walk into that day with eyes of faith, not eyes of fear. He wants you to enter that moment with the confidence that even if you can't see what's coming, He already has it prepared. The unseen is not a void. It is a divine waiting room, a place where God stores the victories, answers, and breakthroughs that belong to those who dare to walk by faith and not by sight. Becoming the vessel God can use is not about perfection. It's about surrender. God is not looking for flawless people. He's looking for available hearts. Hearts that are willing to be shaped, stretched, refined, and aligned with His purpose. When God marks a day like November 28, 2025, He's not just preparing the moment. He's preparing you for the moment. Because what He pours out is always connected to who is ready to receive it. Some people will walk into that day unprepared because they treated it like every other day. But the people God uses are the ones who recognize that divine moments require a prepared spirit. They understand that when heaven is preparing to move, you cannot stay casual with your calling. You cannot stay lukewarm with your faith. You cannot stay hesitant with your purpose. God shapes His vessels before He fills them. Becoming that vessel means allowing God to clean out what's been cluttering your spirit. It means letting Him deal with the bitterness you've been holding, the fear that's been whispering to you, the doubts that have been draining your strength, and the habits that keep pulling you backwards. God cannot pour new oil into a vessel still contaminated with yesterday's residue. Your breakthrough may be ready, but your capacity to hold it must be expanded. And that expansion doesn't feel comfortable. It feels like conviction. It feels like God asking you to let go of what you've grown attached to. It feels like Him pressing on areas you thought you healed from. It feels like Him tearing down old mindsets so He can rebuild you with new ones. But that pressure is not punishment. It's preparation. You are being shaped into someone who can carry what God is preparing to release. You are being transformed into someone who doesn't crack under spiritual weight, doesn't fold under pressure, doesn't bend under temptation. God is forming strength in you, resilience in you, discernment in you, endurance in you. He is crafting a vessel that can walk into divine moments, fully ready to steward what He pours out. Becoming the vessel God uses also means embracing the courage to say yes before you see the outcome. It means stepping when you're uncomfortable, trusting when you're uncertain, and obeying when it costs you something. Every person God used in Scripture said yes before the assignment made sense. They didn't wait for clarity. They moved with conviction. And God is calling you to that same courage. Because what He releases on November 28 isn't just about events. It's about transformation. It's about you becoming the version of yourself He designed before the foundations of the world. It's about rising into a level of faith you've never walked in, a level of maturity you've never lived in, a level of purpose you've never carried before. You are not just preparing for a day. You are preparing to become the kind of person who can receive what that day holds. A vessel that is strong, surrendered, open, obedient, and spiritually awake. A vessel heaven can trust. A vessel ready for divine assignment. A vessel positioned for the extraordinary. When God prepares a moment like November 28, 2025, He is not simply planning to change your circumstances. He is planning to change you. Because destiny is never just about the event. It's about who you become as you step into it. God is after transformation, not temporary excitement. He is after a shift in your spirit, not just a change in your situation. And the truth is, God never calls you into a divine moment without first stirring something deep within you that awakens your purpose. This is the kind of day where God calls you to rise above everything that has tried to reduce you. The doubts that have whispered you're not enough. The fears that have told you to stay small. The voices from your past that have tried to pull you back into old versions of yourself. God is declaring that your old identity cannot follow you into what He's about to release. He is stripping away everything that does not align with where He's taking you. And sometimes that stripping doesn't feel spiritual. It feels personal. It feels like God is removing comforts, shaking loose relationships, disrupting routines, or closing doors you thought would always stay open. But every disruption is a divine invitation. Every loss is making room. Every shift is a sign that heaven is clearing space for something greater. God doesn't empty your hands to punish you. He empties them so he can place something heavier with glory in them. There comes a moment when God refuses to let you remain who you've been, because who you've been is too small for where he's taking you. You may feel the stretching. You may feel the pressing. You may feel the weight of transition. But that pressure is the signature of preparation. You cannot carry divine assignment with a casual mindset. You cannot walk into supernatural purpose with a natural level of faith. God is elevating your spirit, strengthening your foundation, and sharpening your discernment so that when that day arrives, you won't just witness it. You'll walk in it fully prepared. This kind of preparation requires a willingness to let God transform the inner world you've kept hidden from everyone else. Your private battles, your unspoken worries, your buried wounds. God is reaching into those places because they matter to your future. He wants your mind healed, your heart freed, and your spirit steady. A shaky heart cannot carry a stable calling. A wounded identity cannot steward a great assignment. God is healing you behind the scenes so he can elevate you in the open. You're being prepared to walk into a moment that your past cannot sabotage, that your fear cannot control, that your doubt cannot limit. God is shaping you into someone who will not be overwhelmed by blessing, who will not shrink under responsibility, who will not collapse under the weight of his favor. You are becoming someone whose character can sustain what their faith has been praying for. And as God prepares you, he is also preparing the environment around you. He's aligning people, positioning opportunities, orchestrating connections, and shifting circumstances so that everything is ready at the exact moment he declares. Nothing God does is accidental. Nothing he designs is random. Everything is intentional. Every yes, every no, every delay, every acceleration. You are stepping into a day that heaven has already arranged, a moment God has carefully crafted, and a season where everything he's been preparing in you and around you will meet in divine timing. Because when God says a day will not be normal, it means your life is being readied for something that will leave you forever changed.